Hello guys and welcome to the first tutorial series on this channel. In this tutorial series I'm gonna show you how to learn Unreal Engine 5 and how to create your first game with it. So the first step would be to install Unreal Engine 5. To do that you have to install Epic Games Launcher. You probably already have it installed. You have to go to the Unreal Engine tab, Library, and on the engine versions you have to hit this plus button and find your version here. Now I already have installed Unreal Engine 5.3.1, which is currently the latest version. So let's launch it. In the meantime, I would appreciate a lot if you like and subscribe, and it usually takes some time to open, and if it's the first time it will take some. Alright, once it's done you want to click to the Games tab and blank. Here you will create every project that you'll work on. From here we can see there are a few options. We can choose what we will use for coding our game mechanics and everything else. With Blueprint or C++, we're gonna choose Blueprint, but if you want also C++, I will make a tutorial series for that also. Target platform is gonna be desktop, and quality preset, well, here it depends. If your PC is capable, then you should leave it to maximum. If not, leave it to scalable. We could use starter content. Starter content basically has this third-person template and materials, blueprints, and so on. Just a personal preference, but you can leave it disabled. From here, you'll choose the project location. Okay, project name. Alright, when you're done, hit create. This takes a lot. Why? Because it has to compile shaders. To be more specific, around a few thousand shaders. Oh. Okay. Well, for me, it wasn't the case, but for you, it will probably is. Alright, so it opens up. What is this? Well, let's start by learning how to move inside the scene. So to move the camera you have to hold right click and then you move it just like in a game. Then to move yourself in the scene you use WASD. If you press shift it stops you. Get familiar with that. You can select objects in the scene by clicking on them, and if you want to get more close to them you press F. There you go. When you hit F you can also hold down Alt, and with the left click you can move around it to preview it, to look around it. Okay, you'll get familiar with this. Now let's create our first level. To do that you want to go to File, New Level. From here you have a few templates. I'm gonna choose Basic, hit Create, and it's done. Now to save the level you want to hit Ctrl S, and for the first time your level isn't actually saved, so you'll have to save it somewhere. I'm just gonna save it in the content folder. I'm gonna say main level and hit save. Good, now it's saved. Every time you press Ctrl S the level is gonna be saved. Let's talk about the whole UI of the engine. Up here there are tabs. You can have multiple tabs to work on your UI, textures, modeling, and so on. Blueprints. On the right side you have the outliner, which basically shows you every object in the current level. Right here on the details tab you're gonna see every property for every object. For example, if I click the ground, as you can see, we can see the floor here and all of its components. We can change the mesh, the material, the position, the rotation, the scale, and so on. There are a lot of things. Alright, right here is the content drawer. Basically here you can see all your assets and so on. So to create a folder it's pretty straightforward. Just right click and new folder. I'm gonna call this levels and just drag the level. Move here. Alright, let's save. Good. So that was it. If you want to play your game you just click under here. How do we create our first player actually? Well, you want to go to the content drawer, right click and blueprint class. You have to understand that each object in the level is actually an actor. Every other type of blueprint is inherited from the actor blueprint. That's useful to know. An actor is just an object. You can just place it in the scene and collide with it and so on. It cannot be a player. A pawn, however, can be possessed. What does it mean possessed? It means it can act as a player. You can control it by keyboard or input device. The character is a more sophisticated version of the pawn. Basically, it has already set up the jumping system, moving system, camera system, and so on. The others are not very interesting for us because we are not gonna use it now. For player, I'm gonna choose the character because it already has set up everything we need. And I'm gonna name it player BP. Alright, and double click. As you can see, it opened in another window. You can also drag the tabs and interact with them. You can sort them out, you can take them. Alright, so when you are here, this is the blueprint editor. You have here the viewport, construction script, which we're not gonna use it for now, and the actual event graph. Here is the actual logic for our player, and here we're gonna place every blueprint. Alright, let's stick to the viewport for now. As you can see, the details tab now is bigger, and the outliner is now on the left tab, which is called components now, because we can preview every component of the player currently here. The movement is the same. You right click to move your camera, WASD to move in the scene. Alright, so let's start by creating a cube. So this character won't be invisible anymore. To do that, you want to go to this add button and search for cube. There it is. I'm gonna leave it as cube. Let's change a little bit how it looks. First of all, that will be the size. Now, instead of going here and changing the scale, you can toggle a keyboard shortcut. For example, R for scale. W is for positioning and E is for rotation. For now, we will use R. Alright, you can scale it by dragging off one of these little cubes. So let's scale it. Good, it looks more of like a cube. I'm gonna also scale it up, and there we go. Perfect. Let's say we wanted to like rotate it a little bit. We press E and you can rotate. If you did something wrong, you can always press Ctrl Z and it will be reverted. Alright, for positioning, I don't have to explain anything. You just drag from this and position him wherever you like. So now our player is kind of blind because we don't have a camera. A camera will always be spawned in the scene, but it's better to have one because we can control where it should be in the player. So you want to select the capsule component, hit the add button and search for camera. Click on it and there it is, our camera. Okay, now we have to move the camera a little bit around here. Alright, and you want to avoid having it outside the cube because you might clip through it and it will look weird, so try to keep it in the cube. Alright, good. When you're done with your player, hit the compile button. It will take some time, but you should see this check mark. Save it and let's place it in the level. Alright, first of all, this is the player start. We don't need it. You can delete it by pressing the delete button. You go to content drawer and just drag the player. There you go. So here's our player. Let's try to press play to see what happens. That's weird. Now you might be wondering, well, why we can control this player? Why I am still controlling this weird player? Well, it's very simple actually. We haven't told the engine that we want this to be our player. We can do that by going back to the player, click on it and search here for possess. Auto possess player. Instead of disabled, we want to set it to player 0. Now when we hit compile and we go back, look at that. Now we cannot move and cannot look around. Let's fix that by adding our actual first blueprint. Before doing that, we have to set up the input. To do that, you want to go to the project settings, to the engine, and look for input. There it is. We have axis mappings and action mappings. Action mappings are for when you want to click a button. For example, E to equip. However, we will use axis mappings because we will look around with the mouse and we're gonna have two keys for one thing. WS for forward and backwards and A and D for left and right. So add two. I'm gonna rename the first one forward and this one left. From here we can see it already has a key. It is not assigned. So click this and put the key value. It's way much easier than scrolling through it, finding it, because there are a lot. Besides this, on the right side we can see a scale attribute. Now this is what we will get in return. So when we press this button, we will get this value. This is very useful because we will revert the speed. That's why we need an axis mappings. You want to go to the event graph on your player BP, and from here we see 3 events. This right here, this red thingy, is called an event. Basically this is fired off when something happens and will execute the code. For example, begin play, it's executed when the player is spawned in the scene. Tick, it's executed every frame. Actor begin overlap when it overlaps with something. These are useless for now, so let's select them all and delete them. Now you want to right click and search for add movement input. This is basically the node that we're gonna use to move the player, but where do we connect it to? So you want to right click, search for forward first of all, axis events. Good. We connect it. So basically with this connection, this will fire and we will execute this node. So let's actually make this work. To do that, you connect the axis value to scale value, and the target we can leave it blank. What is with the world direction? We need to specify that we want it to be forward. Right click, get actor forward vector, take this to the world direction. If we compile and go back in the level, when we hit play, we should see that when we press W it goes forward and when we press S it goes backwards. That's why we needed to put -1 here on the S so that the force or the speed will be inverted. Let's do the same thing with the left. We right click, we search for left, there we go, axis events, and we go again, add movement input. Scale value, we connect it again, and the world direction this time, get actor right vector. Let's compile, don't forget to save, and we go back. Now when we hit play, we have a complete player movement without jumping, but that's easy to solve, and without mouse input, which is also easy to solve. You want to go back to the camera and search for use spawn control rotation. Click that, hit compile, save, and now when we hit play, we have an almost working player without jumping. We could use an action mapping, but because it's just a button and it's not gonna be changed probably, we can use it already from here. You can just right click and search for space bar. There we go. And it's already added here. And why did I choose to make a character blueprint? Well, because we can just say jump is that simple. The collision is already handled, so you can't jump to infinite. We can see that jumping is indeed working. Now let's say that I add here another cube in the scene. To add that, you want to go and click to this and shapes cube right here. So when I put this, let's make it a little bit bigger. Alright. So when I play, I cannot double jump unless I'm touching the top of the object. So you have to touch with your feet the actual cube to be able to jump. Alright, so that's it for today's tutorial. I hope you liked it, and the next tutorial we're gonna extend our little game into a parkour one with moving platforms and AIs. Thanks for watching and happy coding.